Welcome to our YouTube channel, and today is 5th February. Pakistan observed 5th February is a Kashmir Day to show the solidarity and the unity with the Kashmiri people, our brother, our sisters, uh, our mothers. So, what is exactly the significance and what exactly the importance, and what exactly were targets we had, and how we achieved. So I would like to introduce Maleeha Lodhi Saiba. She's a Pakistani diplomat, political scientist, and a former Pakistan representative to United Nations. Assalamu alaikum, ma'am.
Walaikum salam.
Thank you very much for your time, Maleeha Lodhi Saiba. First of all, as we all say, that 5th February is a Kashmir Day. So, what is the significance, how you see, and what were the targets, what we had to achieve, and what we achieved?
The last 3 years since August 5, 2019 have been a really bitter and grim chapter in the long occupation of Maqbooza Kashmir by Indian forces. In the last 3 years, we have seen so many changes that the Indian BJP government has brought about, which has really been an assault on Kashmiri Muslims in so many different ways. So not only did the Indian government absorb illegally Jammu and Kashmir into the Indian Union and bifurcated the state, but they then carried out sweeping changes which pose an existential threat to Kashmiri Muslims. They've carried out demographic changes, they've carried out delimitation of electoral constituencies to give Jammu and therefore the Hindus of Jammu dominance over Kashmiri Muslims. And at the same time, there has been attack and an assault on Kashmiri cultural identity, religious identity. The mosques have been, many of the mosques have been closed or taken over. Sufi shrines have been taken over. So, you're looking at a very broad-based attack on Kashmiri Muslims. Now, in this context, Nadia, Pakistan needs to have a very robust Kashmir policy. And what we have seen, unfortunately and sadly, in the last couple of years, but particularly in the last 1 year, is silence almost from Pakistan in terms of its diplomatic campaign. So, to mark Solidarity Day is very important because it sends a signal to the Kashmiri people that Pakistan stands with them in this hour of plight and hardship. But at the same time, Pakistan needs to do more. I was driving down Constitution Avenue earlier today, and I saw all these posters, expressing solidarity with Kashmiris. Now, we need to do more than just put up posters on our streets. And I think that's where the challenge is, that how does Pakistan now move forward to send a strong signal to the Kashmiris, but at the same time to raise the diplomatic costs for India for what it is doing in Kashmir and continues to do to reduce the Kashmiris, the Kashmiri Muslims, into a minority in their own land.
Indeed, ma'am, this is very unfortunate. And as you said, that Pakistan should do more. But what are the reasons, we will talk later. But the thing is that after the motive or the goal behind the revoking of Article 370, India achieved. And what options left for Pakistan after as they revoked the Article 370 and 35A for the demographic change, as you have mentioned as well. So what are the options are left?
You see, remember one thing, that whatever the Indians are doing in occupied Kashmir, they are imposing a silence on the people there. But silence doesn't mean acceptance by the Kashmiris of Indian occupation. So Kashmiri resistance to Indian occupation, the fact that they continue to say no to Indian occupation, is something that we have to keep in view. So when you talk about options, naturally the options are diplomatic and political. And I think there Pakistan needs to have a multifaceted diplomatic strategy. We need to engage with the UN. We need to engage with key bilateral, relationships that we have with key countries, and also ensure that the OIC does more than just send it sent a fact-finding mission, for example. Its Secretary General also gives statements on Kashmir from time to time. And then, human rights organizations. Plus, remember, much of what is happening is being exposed on the social media. There are still Kashmiri people or organizations who have websites on Twitter, for example. On Twitter, you can go to their accounts and you can see from there what is happening. I mean, I was looking at the Twitter accounts of one or two Kashmiri organizations, and I found out that for days now, there are demonstrations going on against land that is being seized from Kashmiris by the government authorities. So, a lot of this is not reaching the outside world. Pakistan must help the Kashmiris to ensure that their voice is heard abroad, and that these stories that I came across on Twitter also reaches a global audience.
Well said, definitely. And one thing more, as you have also mentioned, Maleeha Lodhi Sahaba, that there was silence from Pakistan side, especially if we see after 2019, the Moody's, like what he has done after revoking Article 370. But in recent past, there was Corps Commander Conference, and Kashmir was in agenda. And we have seen in the press release as well that it's being observed and it's been monitoring, and eyes over there, like the demographic changes and everything which the India has done. So, do you see any impact of this thing, that if this is an agenda and this has been released in the press release as well? International community can observe this thing and can give the importance to this.
Well, I think, Nadia, you're right to point out that after a long silence, actually, the silence was broken by this co-commanders conference that took place just a few days ago, in which expression of concern and solidarity with the Kashmiris was once again reiterated by Pakistan. So it's good to know that. And of course, you will remember that the new army chief, one of his first statements when he took over this office was to express solidarity again and concern about the human rights violations in occupied Jammu and Kashmir. But at the same time, remember that after India took this action on 5th August 2019, this illegal action, which is a violation of UN Security Council resolutions. And Nadia, remember, there are 11 resolutions, not just one, on Kashmir, the Security Council. So it's a violation of so many resolutions. Now, for the 1 year after that, I think Pakistan did conduct a pretty robust campaign, diplomatic campaign. But then it began to peter out. Now, of course, one understands and appreciates that Pakistan is confronted with its own challenges. As you know, we are confronted with, unprecedented economic, political, and security challenges. So there is a lot of focus naturally inwards, and that's the right thing to do. But at the same time, countries they don't become silent. They have to continue to express their principled position on an issue that has been fundamental to Pakistan's foreign policy.
Okay, ma'am, you have been representative of United Nations as well, and United Nations is a forum where the resolutions are in pending, we can say. And what exactly Pakistan wanted? Pakistan wanted a referendum over there, and should be heard the voice of the Kashmiris. And every time we see, whenever the session is scheduled of United Nations, that either our foreign minister or the prime minister, they used to raise the voice on Kashmir, and they used to remind the international community that the resolution is impending and it's not being, executed. So why the international community, and you must have been observed as well. So why the international community is silent and do not bring the India into this?
You see, you have to bear in mind that the United Nations is as strong or weak as its member states. And the 5 permanent members of the Security Council are the people, or are the center of decision making at the United Nations. So the UN, is not a supra national body. It is an intergovernmental organization. So therefore, it is these 5 countries who are permanent members of the Security Council who are critical. So in a way, our lobbying and our focus has to be on these major powers. But at the same time, it's important to also keep getting enough media play. And I think when you say that, there's been silence from the international community, I think we should remember and commend international human rights organizations that have continued to say much about what is happening there, particularly the crackdown on the media and on journalists. So many journalists are jailed right now. So, there are international organizations like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, the Committee for the Protection of Journalists. They have been speaking out. We need to amplify those voices, because here I find there seems to have been, a fatigue at the official level, not at the public level, because we will see on Solidarity Day how the public themselves express their solidarity with the Kashmiri brothers and sisters.
Right. Please allow me to talk about the human rights violation. It's being carried out in Kashmir for years and years, like, of course. But secondly, on the other hand, we see the same thing in Afghanistan. When it happens in Afghanistan, as far as the women rights are concerned, or human rights definitely being violated, so the entire world screams about the human rights violation, and about the women rights. But if you see in Kashmir, so the same violation is being done, and the way women are humiliated over there. So why this discrimination?
Well, I mean, international relations is all about double standards. Countries pursue their interests. It's very rare that countries will put values above their interests. And values means that you respond to situations like that in occupied Kashmir. So we have to recognize that countries often don't want to annoy India and therefore keep silent. We have seen that from many Western countries who have major stakes and in their relationship with India, and therefore don't want to in any way annoy India. But at the same time, remember one thing: despite all of this, the disappointment that we have with the international community, remember one thing: that in Kashmir itself, the ground situation is such that India has failed in its might is right policy. For all these years, 7 decades, it tried to get the Kashmiris to accept Indian occupation. The Kashmiris, whenever they got a chance, when they can speak out, always said no, and they continue to say no. So I think it's a day that we must not just express our disappointment with certain Western powers. It's a day where we must salute the bravery, courage, and resistance of the Kashmiri people. They have gone through such hardship, and they continue to go through a huge amount of difficulty, hardship in their daily lives. And today, as I was explaining earlier to you, Nadia, every aspect of life for Kashmiri Muslims is under threat. This is an unprecedented situation. The occupation has just gotten much more brutal than ever in the past. The very identity of Kashmiri Muslims is under attack. That's BJP is trying to impose its Hindutva ideology onto Muslim Kashmir. So I think we need to also say that the Kashmiris are standing up to all of this, even though there has been this silence that has been imposed through repression on them.
So, ma'am, do you really see this is the implementation of such RSS ideology and that Hindutva, as you have mentioned, what they have done in Kashmir? So,
very
this
much.
is the continuity.
Yes. What India is trying to do is to impose ultimately a Hindu chief minister on occupied Jammu and Kashmir. That is why they've carried out demographic changes. That's why they've carried out these changes in electoral delimitation. And what they're doing is taking over places of religious worship for Muslims, taking over shrines, taking over much through which Kashmiri Muslims are able to freely exercise their right to their religion. Mirwais has not been able, he's been in detention since the last 3.5 years. He's not been able to go to the Srinagar masjid to lead the khutbah because the masjid is closed and he is in detention. So the attack is now on the religious identity of Kashmiri Muslims. this is something that Pakistan must expose and must highlight, because I don't think we've done enough to tell the world, which, from time to time, Nadia, as you were saying, they express a lot of concern about the right to religious freedom, for example. Well, the right to religious freedom is being suppressed in occupied Kashmir. And this is very, very serious because, as I said before, Kashmiri Muslims are now facing an existential threat.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ma'am, Maleeha Lodhi Sahaba, for giving us time and for the answers of our questions. So right now, we have Aizaz Chaudhry, sir, former Foreign Secretary of Pakistan. And thank you very much, Aizaz Chaudhry, sir, for being with us and giving time for this day, basically. Very important day, definitely very important day. We do observe, like Pakistan observes 5th February as a Kashmir Day. How you see the significance of this day, sir?
Well, essentially, Kashmir Solidarity Day is an occasion for people of Pakistan to express their solidarity with the people of Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and to tell them and to tell the world that we stand with the Kashmiris for their quest and for their struggle to exercise a right that all nations of the world had been afforded to self-determine their destiny. Unfortunately, that has not been the case with these people. And this day has been celebrated for the last 33 years. I remember that it was in 1990. I was also still in the service at that time. And this was celebrated for the first time. I think Jamaat Islami proposed it, and then
exactly Qazi Hussain Ahmed Sahab proposed, if I'm not wrong.
That's right. And then every government in Pakistan that followed has celebrated that or marked that. Now, why do we do that? Why was such a big consensus on this day? It is because people of Pakistan are organically linked to the people of Jammu and Kashmir. If you look at the genealogy, if you look at the ethnicity, if you look at the ties of faith and geography and economics, you would discover that these two people are joined together for centuries. And this bond cannot be undone. And that is why I think it is important for people of Pakistan to mark this day and to tell the Kashmiris that we are with you in your struggle, and that nations have, have withstood such pressures in the past, and you will also succeed. And Pakistan and the people of Pakistan stand right next to you.
Yeah, truly sad, sir. Definitely truly sad, sir. But how you see the status and how you see the importance and significance again, as I have mentioned in my intro as well, that the recent Corps Commander Conference, which has been held 2 days before, in which it was in the agenda, and it was mentioned in the press release as well, that they are very keenly being observed. What happened after 2019, the way the Modi regime revoked Article 350 and 370. I'm sorry. So, what is the status right now? Because definitely demographic change are being carried out. The majority of the Kashmiris is being in their mind, they need to change. They want to change in the minority as well as the Muslims. So, how you see this act and this cunning move, we can say, of Modi's?
Yeah, they following the actions of August 2019, when the statehood was abrogated and Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh were made union territories, we believe that this was a breach of United Nations Security Council resolutions, which clearly did not permit any material change coming. But what we see is that this move is being followed by many other administrative measures, as the ones that you mentioned, There is a kind of demographic engineering, and also some electoral uh, reconfiguration of constituencies. Now, both
Okay.
these moves are such that they tend to reduce the Muslim majority. I was somewhere 3 days ago and was talking to an informed Indian from the ruling party, and he was insisting that this would not change the demographic nature. And I said, how would it not change when you have opened up non-Kashmiris to
Exactly.
enroll in the voter lists, as well as given
Exactly.
them the domiciles in such large number, millions of them. So naturally, not only these demographic changes and electoral changes will make a difference, but the very identity of Kashmir is under assault. The Kashmiriyat itself is under assault. And that is
Exactly, sir.
why,
Secondly, if sorry, I'm interrupting you, but secondly, non-Kashmiris are being settled in occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and they are allowed to buy the property, buy the land, even though which in past, I guess, it was not allowed to non-Kashmiris to buy a land in the Kashmir occupied Kashmir. Am
that
I
is
true,
right.
sir?
That is true because under Article 35A, when India, when people of Kashmir had a special right under the Indian Constitution, although we don't accept Article 370, we don't accept 35A because we don't accept Indian occupation of the state. But yet, the Kashmiris were somewhat protected that Kashmiri properties cannot be bought by non-Kashmiris, but that door has been opened. So a lot is happening. The Indian ruling party says that statehood would be returned, but it appears to us that it would be returned only when it is hollowed out, in a sense that BJP would have a presence in the next government whenever it is formed. So
Hmm.
Pakistan maintains that Jammu and Kashmir is a disputed territory. You cannot make these changes unilaterally, and that it is also a matter of peace and security for the entire South Asia. So it is better and advisable for India to address the root cause of this dispute and not undertake measures which will be resisted by the people of Kashmir for years and decades, because they will simply not accept it. For the past 75 years, their struggle has shown, and I think if any other government would have seen, any other country would have seen,
Hmm.
they have shown that they are not ready to accept Indian occupation. So what
It is
else?
also
What other?
true, sir, and
Yeah.
it has also been observed that they wanted to weaken the freedom movement, but after they revoked, probably they strengthened the freedom movement more. Secondly, sir, I would like to ask you up and taking this opportunity for having you over here. This is very common, and this is very usual, and this is a very common exercise and practice whenever the during the United Nations sessions, whoever the going to represent the Pakistan, we always discuss and raise the voice for Kashmiris and for Kashmir, oppose Modi's regime there, oppose Modi acts over there. But how they react, the international community, or they
Well,
do not?
I think international community had adopted not one, not two, a series of resolutions, 11 of them, and it was expected that India would honor its commitments to the people of Kashmir, to the international community. Unfortunately, with geopolitics taking over and India growing in its own economy and political weight, many in the international community have not put the kind of pressure they should put on India. Uh, uh, they have spoken about the human rights violations in the occupied Jammu and Kashmir. American legislators have spoken, UK legislators, EU legislators, United Nations Secretary General, United Nations High Commission for Human Rights, they have even published 2 books. Amnesty International, Genocide Watch. Yes, there is a lot of criticism for what India is doing by way of suppressing the people of Kashmir. But for other measures that India has taken, I think the international community ought to do more. They need to put greater pressure on India not to complicate matters and sit with Pakistan to resolve this dispute.
Rightly said, sir. But the ground reality is, if we see that India has achieved its targets, and they have done over there whatever they wanted to do. So, what options Pakistan have left as far as the Kashmiris rights and the Kashmiris rights are concerned? The violation of human rights, we need to stop them. But what options left for Pakistan?
Pakistan has done all that it can and will probably continue to do. We raise this voice for the Kashmiris everywhere. And we believe that it is not a favor to the Kashmiris. It is something that we believe is an unfinished agenda of the partition plan, and also a commitment to the voice of the international community. And that, I think, Pakistan will continue to do so. But freedom struggles always take time. We have to be patient. We have to see other freedom struggles, and you will see that sometimes they happen quickly, sometimes they take a lot of time. But you cannot suppress the freedom struggle of the people by force. India has stationed such a heavy presence of its security forces in the occupied territories, and I think they are mistaken that they can suppress the freedom struggle like this. Pakistan should do whatever it can to support this struggle, and I think Pakistan is the only country which has raised its voice at every forum with full force of conviction. Even we have gone to wars with India on this matter, and I don't think Pakistan can afford not to continue to support the case and cause of the people of Kashmir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you very much for giving us time and for being with us on this definitely very significant issue and the Kashmir thing. And today is 5th of February, and as I said earlier, that Pakistan observe is the Kashmir Day, and this is for the solidarity and for the unity with the Kashmiri people, our mothers, our sisters, our brothers. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me for such an important cause. Thank you.
We are really very grateful for Chaudhry Aizaz Saab and as well as Maleeha Lodhi Saiba that they took the time for us and for this cause, for their words, definitely. Now we are moving forward, and the next guest we have is Mishal Malik, and she's a symbol of courage, a symbol of strength, and of course, the wife of Yasin Malik Saab, who has been arrested and he has been locked up for last 4 years. So let's move on to Mishal Malik, and let me welcome Mishal Malik. Okay, well, Mishal, what we have basically observed in occupied Kashmir, Indian occupied Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir, the violation of human rights, as well as what behavior and what they have done and what the violation of human rights they are doing as far as the women are concerned, women rights and other some cases. So first, I would like you to tell us about the human rights violation is being done or is being carried out in Indian occupied Kashmir.
Thank you very much. Since it's a program on 5th of February, a day which is commemorated as a token of solidarity and a symbolic reason for standing with the people of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, I would like to first of all extend my thankfulness and graciousness to the entire Pakistani nation. For the past 33 years, this day is marked as a symbol to represent the
Yes.
pain, the feelings, the prayers, the well wishes, the support for our freedom struggle. But as it goes, that with every passing day, every passing moment, month, year, we are witnessing escalation in the gross violations of human rights and blatant violation of international law, of international humanitarian law, Geneva Conventions, and a lot of the Security Council resolutions, which are over a dozen, which are pending. So India is crossing all lines, and it's jungle law. They're committing war crimes and committing the highest crime in the world, which is called genocide, ethnic cleansing, and it's happening, and they're not being punished, persecuted, and they walk around scot free. So that is the dilemma that we keep on speaking up for them or speaking up for our struggle. But unless and until India is not stopped from committing these heinous crimes, I'm afraid this is going to leave the Kashmiri nation towards extinction.
Well, very true. Secondly, let me ask about your husband, your better half, as Yasin Malik Saab, as he has been arrested and he is in custody, definitely illegal custody, we say, from 2019, if I'm not wrong, since. So, how his health
Yes, yes.
and are you in contact? Are you aware of him? How is his condition, about his health and everything?
He is, Nadia, he's in a very fragile state for the past 4 years. And since we have witnessed over 3 decades of his struggle, most of his struggle has been in jails and being a victim of third-degree torture. And he's already a patient of, a metallic heart valve. He has kidney stones. He has multiple ailments due to prolonged incarcerations and tortures by the Indian state. And even right now, since he's going to be almost 4 years on 22nd of February this year, to his, continuously being locked up in Indian jails, from Jammu jail to being shifted in March 2019 to Tihar jail, which is one of the most notorious jails in the world. And he's kept in a death cell. It's a 5 by 7 feet death cell, a tall man kept there with an open toilet, with being given the worst form of mistreatment, and the laws which call for the protection of the rights of prisoners, and then he happens to be a political prisoner. He's not being given any of them, and even in the court cases, which I don't see any example in the world whatsoever, in not just in recent times, even in the past, that even if the state has decided to punish somebody, it is just like not, they always give a right to the person or the victim or whoever is charged, even if it's fabricated charges, it's political vendetta, the state gives them the opportunity to go and speak up in their defense or have a counsel. Yet in the cases which are filed against fictitious charges filed against my husband, he is not being given any legal counsel access. There's no fair trial. In fact, it's black justice, because the only time he was
So,
presented physically in the courts in one of the cases was when the judge decided to punish him.
so you're saying that no legal counseling was allowed for like these 4 years?
Yes, no legal counsel. He had one counsel, Raja Tufel Saab, for a short while in one of the cases, but he mysteriously got brain hemorrhage. So, and it's not
Okay.
anything new or alarming for Kashmiris that Kashmiri lawyers get victimized, get attacked, or they are harassed, or they're eliminated. In many cases, we've witnessed that in the past.
Okay.
So Yasin
Okay.
Saab did not want to risk life of other people, but he was not allowed to even come and advocate himself, which is the birthright of anybody around the world, that they
This is
have the right to
the
defend
true
themselves.
face of
Yes,
Modi and
yes.
India.
In fact, you'll be shocked that the Indian state
Tell
said
me
that
one
we will
thing.
become one.
Okay, fine. Tell me one thing, Mishal Saiba, that because I was just going through with the things that once you have written a letter to United Nations, once you have written the letter to Narendra Modi, as well as you said BJP wants Kashmir to be Ditwa Valley. So what was the background and how you got the response from Modi, even though, or from United Nations? Did you get any response from there, or any positive response?
It's been a Herculean journey task, and it is not something where you get the results right away, straight away responses, because happens to be the oldest pending conflict in the world, and there are many global powers that are still not united to take an action against India. Mainly due to its a huge economic market and heavy investments of the West or of the Islamic countries. But then again, when it comes to human rights and humanitarian laws, I have been a regular writer. I've been writing not just to the UN Secretary General, but also to the UN Human Rights Commissioner on a regular basis, to the permanent five countries that happen to be USA, UK, France, Britain, China, and Russia, and also to the Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, ICRC. And I have been getting responses many a times, which have not been made public due to the sensitivity of the matter, because my husband happens to be in a death cell, and I'm trying my best so that through my these correspondences and meetings that I have on the sidelines, I try my best that my message as a family member goes across, and he gets medical aid, and he gets a fair trial. And sometimes we do get strong statements coming from the United Nations or Human Rights Commission reports coming for the rights of political prisoners, the draconian laws. But unless and until the United Nations does not take it under the universal jurisdiction, under international law, and because this is a lawfare committed by India, we
Yeah, we
need
have been
legal
observed
action
this
against
thing.
India.
True, very true. The last question I would like to ask, Mishal, that you again, I'm repeating, coming again, that BJP wants Kashmir to be in the Tua Valley. What was the background of that?
Background
Why did he say this?
it's yes, the background is very deep rooted. It goes back to 1947, where the RSS was involved in the masquerade, in the massacre of 5 lakh Jammu Muslims. They were slaughtered, beheaded in Jammu region, so that the RSS could form a hegemony there of a majority Hindu region by cosmetically changing the demography for that. As I mentioned earlier, they slaughtered people. They didn't just increase the Hindu population illegally in a disputed territory. So in the same manner, what RSS did in 1947, beheading, slaughtering 5 lakh Muslims, and some of the family members that were left alive, they ran for their lives, and they came to Pakistan, to Azad Kashmir. And you can still, if you ask those families living here, their forefathers, the kind of tragic tales they can share, which are so terrifying, and it is a recall of that. But now what is more alarming is that they are not just inspired by their own RSS, they're also inspired by the Israeli settlements at the West Bank, Palestine. And then they are in power right now. RSS was never in power in 1947. They have a thumping majority in India through Modi and their IP and their intelligentsia and everything. They're all supporting them. They've increased the ratio of their occupational forces, and 50 lakh Indians have now been been granted domicile certificates. So all this is happening at such a super fast pace that when you analyze the situation on ground, and when you say that they are inspired by the Israeli settlements, but we must keep in mind, being a student of history, that it took 70 years for Israel to achieve what it has achieved now. But at the pace, the speed, the fast pace at which India is going under Modi, under the RSS, we are expecting that speed to be, in a nutshell, in a year or two, they will achieve their goal of making this a majority Hindu region. And then if they conduct plebiscite or referendum or right to self-determination, I won't be surprised that the majority will definitely, vote in favor of India, because they will be Indians already there.
Yeah, definitely. They have their own interest. Thank you very much, Mishal Malik, for your time and for being with us and for everything. The simple thing is that definitely this is a Hindutva ideology which is being applied, and as far as the other things are concerned and the demographic changes are being carried out after revoking the Article 370, what they have thought about it, they thought that they will just weaken the freedom struggle freedom, but it didn't happen. And in fact, it was more strengthened. Thank you very much. Thank you.